And good evening and welcome to this edition of the Scanner Guys. I'm Jonathan Higgins, and tonight we are talking about favorites list versus zip code scanning. So an interesting topic tonight. So we're going to kind of look at a comparison of doing both and which is best. I do have an opinion on which is best, and you'll learn about that tonight. So thank you to everyone that's joining me this evening. Let's get on with the show. All right, so tonight's discussion, favorites list versus zip code scanning. So make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. And then while you're at the website, scannerguyshow.com, make sure you shop our store, contact us, and check out the newsletter as well. So a lot of great stuff there, so make sure you do that on our website. And the website, once again, is thescannerguyshow.com. If you're watching this broadcast for the very first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So Train Aficionado Live will be back next month, Wednesday, February the 7th, for our live show at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, live on YouTube. So make sure you hop over to the Train Aficionado YouTube channel as well. We've got some great programs that are listed on our other channel. One show was covering the history of the Pawtucket Central Falls Station Now and Then, which I was able to visit the station last October, and also the Kannapolis, North Carolina Holiday Express video. So lots of good stuff on that channel, so definitely check it out. I'll be happy to watch watch those shows. Excuse me. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so I may cough here and there. I do apologize. But tonight's broadcast, favorites list versus zip code scanning. So let's take a look at this option. And it's on many of these popular Uniden radios, the 436, the 536, the Home Patrol 1 and 2, and the SDS 100 and 200. So which is better, zip code versus favorites list? So zip code-based scanning, how it all works is programming the scanner by entering a zip code, a location, or a GPS coordinate as a center point, and then adding a range in miles would create a circle around the center point. So what that'll basically do is pull in a wide variety of channels for that area. A lot of times, it'll pull in way too much. And zip code-based programming is not the best solution all the time. You can narrow down that programming, which I'm going to kind of go over in a little bit more detail in a moment, with reducing down the types of services that you're using. If let's say you're in the Northeast in Massachusetts, you put in a zip code, latitude, longitude, and then a radius. Sometimes it'll pull in a whole slew of things. Now, basically, this information is dependent on, what's in the background on radio reference. So latitude, longitude on radio reference is definitely key. So if it's not correctly in the background there, when you put in a zip code, you could be getting everything across the whole entire county. For example, there was a county in Maine where I entered in a zip code, and I was getting stuff clear across the county, scanning in the scanner. So let's say, I was in the eastern part of the county. My scanner was trying to receive stuff in the western part of the county. In a normal situation, the way it's supposed to be, each city and town is supposed to have its own lat and long. So think of it as, the city or town, maybe it's about a 5-mile radius, to be able to capture all the borders of the town. So the way that county was done in the background is every city and town had a center point for the county, and then it had the same radius of 35 miles. So no matter where I put in a zip code in that county, it's going to pick up the same thing. So zip code based scanning is not the best option, and it even isn't the best option for GPS scanning as well. You can create a favorites list and use GPS scanning as well. So with a favorites list, you're going into the database and you're picking and choosing the channels or talk groups you're looking to monitor. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more detail on that. But if you're looking for a more precise scanning experience, a favorites list is the route to go. If you don't care what you're monitoring and you just pretty much want to hear something coming out of your scanner and you're somewhere, random, maybe you're spending an overnight in some city or town on a road trip and you just want to plop in a zip code and just hear what you hear, the zip code is fine. But if you're looking to kind of really get a precise listening experience, the favorites list is the best route to go. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail in that as well. So why the favorites list? Why am I siding with the favorites list? Now, it's going to give you a really fine-tuned listening experience. One, it's faster scanning. You're picking up what you want to listen to. You can have as many favorites lists as you like. So you can divide up things into different groups. Let's say, for instance, if I was back east and living in Massachusetts, I could do a favorites list that was my old hometown, Middleborough, and then I could do a favorites list with all of the, all of the towns around, like Lakeville, Halifax, Rainham, Wareham, Rochester, just to name a few towns. So I can create multiple favorites lists. So let's say in a particular night, I just want to hear Middleborough. So I could run the favorites list that just has Middleborough. Middleborough, for whatever reason, it's quiet tonight. So I could pop on a different favorites list that has some of the surrounding towns on. So basically I'm scanning two favorites lists, the one that has Middleborough and the one that has the surrounding towns in it. I mean, hell, I can create all types of favorites lists. I could create a different favorites list that just has the talk groups for the state police. So the Mass State Police, I could have that in its own favorites list. So I have the ability to turn things on and off. Consider it almost like if we're looking at this as an old school scanning experience with banks. So you would basically put in, various things in bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, bank 4, and so forth. So you would turn those banks on and off. So think of the favorites list almost like as banks. You're turning those banks on when you want them. You're turning them off when you don't need them. So creating your own custom service searches, we can do that on these radios as well. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. So favorites list is pretty much the way I use the scanner when I was a part of the beta testing group back in the day when it was the Uniden Home Patrol 1. I wasn't crazy about the zip code. But I get why Uniden did it. Because Grandma Mabel or Granddad Ken wanted to have a scanner that was easy to program. Basically get out of the box, plug it in, plop a zip code in, and you get busy. You get going, rolling along. So that's some of the benefits of favorites list scanning. Now, there's going to be a slide that's going to come up, and it's probably going to make you laugh. I'm hoping it does. So envision when you're creating a favorites list, and I'm sure hopefully Lindsay sees this, but the RadioReference.com superstore. Think of Radio Reference as a store, like a Sam's Club, a Costco, or a BJ's. It's a big box store. You walk in there, and basically you have shelves and shelves of talk groups and channels that you can load into your virtual shopping cart. So there's a lot in there. So take, for instance, you have all the United States and Canada database in there for police, fire, and EMS, railroads, aviation, maritime, and of course a national database. So think of it right now that we've got our shopping cart. We're going to go into RadioReference.com, which is the superstore, and we're going to grab and put things in that we want to listen to on our scanner. That is the best example to think of, creating a favorites list. You're basically going in there and picking and choosing, what you want to put into your shopping cart. So take, for instance, I'm going to use a different scenario. So if we're entering a zip code, think of, the section where all the cheeses are. You're getting all the cheeses, Swiss, the sharp cheddar, the American cheese, Munster, all those various cheeses, you're getting them all. But when we do a favorites list, we're going in there and we're going for our sharp cheddar. And we're just putting in the sharp cheddar into the cart. So pretty much that's what we're going to buy. That's what we're going to put in the cart. So think of it that way. When you're creating a favorites list, you're going into that cheese section and you're putting in your type of cheese in there. When you're putting in the zip code, it's going to put all the cheeses in the cart, essentially. Excuse me. So here's the database here. So you're able to see the nationwide database. You're going in and you're picking and choosing the cities and towns that you want to monitor, right down to the particular channel. I mean, we're looking at conventional stuff here. So let's say I was a fire buff and all I wanted to monitor was fire frequencies. So I could go in there and say, I want Carver, Massachusetts fire. I want Duxbury. I want East Bridgewater. I want all these other towns, just the fire channels. So I can go in there, pick and choose those particular channels, put them into my cart. Same thing, I could do it the other way. I can select, all the Carver's channels, police, fire, EMS. If the DPW is listed there, I could put that in the cart as well. So you're basically picking and choosing what you're looking to put into your cart. So Radio Reference is the database, in case you didn't know that, what lives in these database scanners, such as the Home Patrol, the 436, the 536, the SDS 100, 200, and all that. So we have another way to narrow down things that the scanner is scanning. Now, if you're using zip code scanning, you can weed down some of the stuff in your scanner by selecting these service tags. You can either have them enabled or disabled on the radio. Now, you go into the menu, you would see a list of all of these tags, and you can enable or disable it. So when you enter in a zip code, it's going to look, okay, so am I looking for aircraft frequencies? Are we scanning that? Are we scanning correctionals, businesses, fire, hospitals, the law channels, railroads, public safety, military, multi-tac, utilities, transportation, media. So it's looking at all this when you're using your zip code. So what you can do is you can turn off these service tags. So let's say you are using the zip code-based programming and you're a fire buff and you love to be able to monitor fire. You don't want to hear anything of the police. You could care less. So if you enter in your zip code and you leave it to the default on the radio, it's going to enable, of course, the police and the fire and some of the other stuff. So you can go in there into the menu inside the radio and turn off these service tags. So let's say you only want fire. So basically you have enabled just fire dispatch, fire tac, and fire talk. Everything else in the radio is off. So basically when you do put in a zip code, it's going to grab and hold onto those particular channels. Now the same thing when you're creating a favorites list. Now the reason that I mentioned these service tags, because the radio defaults a certain favorites list on. Many of you know that I'm a rail fan, and the biggest thing is the railroads are not defaulted as a service tag on. So anytime that I buy a new radio, I need to enable that service tag. So for instance, let's say I create a favorites list and I include railroad frequencies in it. And, well, those railroad frequencies are in the favorites list and I'm not hearing anything. You know why? The service tag for railroads is not turned on. So I need to enable that in order for me to be able to hear it. Same thing if you're doing this with zip code based scanning. If you don't have the railroad frequencies turned, the service tag turned on, you're not going to be able to hear anything on the railroads. So keep that in mind. So service tags, you need to enable them for the things that you want to monitor. You can see on Radio Reference, each item that's listed there has a service tag. So you'll be able to see if it's multi-dispatch, multi-tac, multi-talk. You'll be able to see those in there. Lots of communication in the chat tonight. I see a lot of questions there. I'm going to try to answer some of those. Let's Go Rail Fanning asking for the best sound. Depends on what you're looking to monitor. For analog conventional, it may be an analog scanner, such as the 125 AT or the 15X. Digital sound quality, probably the SDSs. SDS 100 and 200, because those radios were built for digital. Don't get me wrong, the 436, 536, and the Home Patrol, 1 and 2 have decent digital quality, but probably the SDSs are going to be the top performer. But for analog, I would say, some of the analog radios that are still around, like the 15X or the 125 AT. Here you go. Quick little answer there, but everybody's going to have their opinion on that. So, of course, that's just my opinion. All right. So, when creating favorites lists, I recommend using the Sentinel software. Now, the Sentinel software, if you're not familiar with it, there's two different Sentinels. There's one for the home patrols, and there's one for everybody else. The 436, the 536, the SDS 100, 200, and so forth. So, the biggest things with the Sentinel software that you can do is, of course, update the firmware, which I would do periodically on the radio. Firmware becomes available when Uniden has an update for that particular radio. Updating the database. You can do that as well. So you're updating the internal database on the scanner, which means that you need to update the database in the software. So it's a two-pronged thing. You need to update the database in the software, and then once you do that, you're going to write the database to the scanner. Now, keep in mind, that's only going to update the internal database in the scanner. So if you are using favorites lists and there's brand new talk groups or even sites or new conventional channels, you need to add those into those favorites lists. They're not going to magically get in there. You need to add those in. Keep in mind, your favorites lists are the supermarket cart. So if you haven't put, that frequency or that talk group or that site, if it's a brand new site or trunk system, into your favorites list, it's not going to hear it. So you need to be able to do that. But everybody has, of course, I see a lot of opinions going on. Everybody's going to be on one fence and the other with digital audio quality and analog. So that's a very hard question because it's very opinionated. So you got my 2 cents. I mean, the logical thing, the SDSs were built for the best digital decoding. But, some people will say the 996 or this radio or that radio will work best. All right, getting back to our slide. Got a little sidetrack there. All right, so the first thing I would do is if you're getting one of these radios, download the Sentinel software. You want to update the firmware and you want to update the database once you purchased it. Now, why do you want to do that? Because the radio is only updated when it came through the factory. So depending on, when the SD cards were updated, it could be months old, could be years old. So you want to make sure you update the database inside the radio. You also want to check that firmware. Maybe there was a few firmware additions that came out, and maybe this has been sitting somewhere, in the manufacturing facility, came over on the boat, then went over to one of the companies that sell scanners, such as Scanner Master. It sat on their shelf for a little bit, and then was shipped to you. So you want to make sure that you want to do that. Now, downloading the Sentinel software, you go to uniden.com. But the Sentinel software, I would highly recommend for doing and creating favorites lists. I mean, this is going to keep your radio up to date. It's also going to update the firmware, the database, and you can also update the global settings on the scanner as well. I've done a whole video with creating favorites lists on the YouTube channel. So make sure that you check that out. We're not doing a step-by-step tonight. We are going to step-by-step you a little bit on the creation of favorites lists so you can get an understanding of it. So pretty much when you're looking at radio reference, here it is, the database. So we can see here that I'm in Massachusetts, looking at Middleborough as an example. So in order to create a favorites list, you're going to right-click on the item that you're looking to bring in. So apparently I'm going to bring in all the frequencies for the municipality for Middleborough. So Middleborough Fire, Middleborough Police, Middleborough DPW, the G&E is on there. Just off the top of my head, I can remember what's on Radio Reference. So before you actually do this, I recommend doing a research on Radio Reference. You want to be able to see where the particular channels are or talk groups are, and you want to make sure that you're able to append them to a favorites list. So you want to do your research first on Radio Reference. So when you go into Sentinel software, you know exactly where to navigate. So in this case, I know Middleborough is analog conventional communications with a couple of digital channels for the electric company, I believe. So what I want to do is basically right-click on this here. You can see the blue, for Middleborough municipalities. And I want to click on Append to Favorites List. So you can see there that I'm going to go in and actually select channels. So I go a little bit deeper in here. So I only want Middleborough Fire, Middleborough Secondary, and Middleborough Police Operations. So what I want to do is click on Append to Favorites List. So once I've got those channels highlighted, like you see there, then I get this screen prompt. So I have a whole bunch of favorites lists there, but I want to create a new favorites list. So I'm going to click on a new favorites list. And then I'm going to just name this, just for the sake of it, Test Favorites List. So I'm going to hit that and then hit OK. And then look at that. At the bottom of my favorites list, you can see test list. It'll show Plymouth County, municipalities, Middleborough. Easy enough. So basically, you just put that in there. I've got those particular channels loaded into a favorites list now. Favorites list for favorites list service searches. So a favorites list service search allows you to kind of create your own service searches within the scanner. So let's take a look at what's available. So in the database, we have nationwide channels. So we have air show frequencies, amateur radio, US and Canada, the Red Cross, aviation, Coast Guard, military, whether it be federal, US and Canada, and so forth. And we even have railroads, and a whole bunch of other channels here. So any one of these can be created into a favorites list. So basically, you're going to append them to a favorites list, which is relatively easy. I believe I got a couple of slides that show that. So nationwide, which I click here. And then basically what you do is go into this screen here, nationwide. And then I have the list of all of these on Radio Reference. So basically, I would right-click Append to Favorites List, name it, and then basically add it to the favorites list. And then I can turn this favorites list on when needed. So for instance, the railroads. So I'm a rail fan, so I want to be able to turn on the railroads, all of the channels that I want to scan. So I'm able to do that by selecting that railroad favorites list, and then it'll just scan through those frequencies. Now, typically, you don't want to use this all the time. I mean, it's a lot of frequencies. It's going to take it a while to go around, but this allows you to create a service search from any of these nationwide frequencies. Hopefully, that kind of makes sense. And it's the same method of what we've looked at here, basically highlighting, what we want to bring in. In this case, Middleborough Fire Operations, Secondary, and Police Operations, highlighting those channels, either using an existing favorites list or creating a new favorites list, then naming it if it's a new favorites list, and then hitting OK, and then you'll see it listed down below. I mean, the favorites list is pretty easy in the Sentinel software. We have a full video on this, so if you want to learn this step by step, definitely check out the video. And that's pretty much my opinion when it comes to using favorites lists. I would strongly recommend using favorites lists. Give them a try. Now, the other thing that you want to consider if you're traveling. Now, the great thing about traveling is, let's say you're just driving through states, on the interstates and highways, and basically it's roads that are patrolled by the state police. If you're running the zip code based programming, you're going to pick up everybody and their uncle, the county sheriff, the state police, and the local police. Everybody's going to be chirping at the same time while you're traveling down the highway. So what I recommend doing when you do a road trip or a long distance travel, create a favorites list. Basically, just pull in the local, state police for that state. Create a favorites list for them. Enable GPS scanning. So as you travel through that state, no matter where you're traveling through, it's going to pick up the local state police for that area. Now when you're traveling on the highway, you're not picking up everybody and their uncle that's neighboring to that highway. You're picking up just communication along that highway. The other thing I would recommend when you're doing that as well is to program some in the larger cities or towns in there so you can get some local color as you're traveling through larger cities and towns. So the great thing about it, yet again, going into Radio Reference, the superstore, loading in those particular channels or talk groups into your shopping cart. And in this case, when you're doing GPS scanning, you're enabling on those favorites lists GPS scanning. And I believe in one of the videos I show you how to do that, and basically you're going in there, selecting GPS scanning. So it's relatively easy to be able to do. I would strongly recommend that even for GPS scanning. When I lived in Massachusetts, I had a 536 in my vehicle, which I still do. And I had all of New England programmed in there with a favorites list. And basically I weeded out all the nonsense channels that I didn't need. I broke out, things a little bit more. I used the Butel software to customize the programming as well. So I would strongly recommend looking at the Butel software as well to customize programming a little bit more. Maybe programming in, some other channels that are in the database, but the geo tags in the background, latitude, longitude, and radius are not perfect. But yeah, I would strongly recommend a favorites list, GPS receiver, and traveling. That is great. I have one set up for here in Ohio. So pretty much I can travel throughout the area. I actually have the city of Cincinnati, the police departments broken up into each of their districts. So in the database, it's all chunked together. So what I did is I took each area and broke it out and gave each district its own latitude, longitude, and radius. So when I travel into Cincinnati, downtown Cincinnati, I'm only hearing the patrols for that particular neighborhood, and I'm not hearing the whole entire everything. So there's a lot of great things doing it. You just have to spend some time doing some programming. But I would strongly recommend doing a favorites list versus the zip code. The zip code is okay, but the thing is, you're probably scanning a crap ton of stuff that you really don't need, and you're probably missing stuff. And as I've talked about in past shows, less is more. Questions, comments? I just see Jim asking about Apple products. Unfortunately, the scanner industry is not friendly towards Mac users. Unless you're using Parallels or some sort of system on your Mac to be able, so it's able to operate on a Windows, platform, to be able to kind of virtually do it. There's no Mac-based software. Unfortunately, I've asked, various people. Unfortunately, you have to have a PC if you don't have Parallels or something like that. I do have one of these school PCs that I got at Micro Center for under $100. I think I bought one for $59. It's one of these school computers, very basic, doesn't have a huge hard drive. A student's able to do, basic stuff on it. It's a Windows operating system, works great. I mean, you just put in your software, break that out when you need to do some programming on your scanner, and then you're good to go. I mean, it's a great investment when it's under $100 for a computer. You don't need, humongous hard drives and all this other business. You just need something that's very basic. If you're going to be just programming your scanner, you just need a very basic computer, preferably a laptop. Then you can bring it out to your car, plug it into the radios, and program it in that way. I saw a lot of, there was a lot of going back and forth. People asking about the new radios. I know Scanner Master has the prices listed on their website. The last time I checked, the 260DN, I think they said was $250, and then the 160DN was $250, and the 260 was $350. I think. I don't know. They may have changed the website, but that was what they had for asking price for the actual radios. Let me just see here. So definitely check, Scanner Master's website for the latest and greatest. Things, they're gonna dictate whatever price they're gonna be selling it for. Yeah, the favorites lists are really great. I see a lot of people siding with me on that. Best audio on radios, I kind of addressed that. I mean, it's really dependent upon what you're monitoring. Whether it be analog or digital, certain radios are going to perform better on certain things. Certain radios are going to be better for certain functions. Like, for instance, right now, current market, if you're looking for a portable scanner for the railroads or aviation, 125 AT is the best option. Unless you're looking to monitor, public safety, then you may need something a little bit more advanced, a digital trunking scanner, depending on where you're at. I mean, that's strictly, you need the best scanner for the job you're trying to, complete. I mean, it's kind of, you're kind of like hiring a person, you want to make sure that this person has the skills to be able to do this job. Same thing with a scanner. You want to make sure you're purchasing the scanner that's going to be able to monitor those particular channels or talk groups to its best ability. And that's a very opinionated question. People will go, on and on, saying, the SDSs are not the best, or the SDSs are the best, so it's very opinionated. I mean, a lot of times you kind of have to use your own judgment and go from there. Beep. Let's see. Just trying to see what else. Asking about Apple products. With these radios that have the database, they have an SD card in it. And we've talked about this hundreds of times. Make sure you have a backup SD card. Murphy's Law, if you've got it, you won't need it. So make sure that you create a backup SD card for your particular radio and then go from there. Jim, that's a great point. People think that their scanners are broken if they can't hear it on the app. Yeah, the apps only are able to monitor key channels, main dispatch channels. They can't do secondary. It's rules on radio reference. And of course, the streams on the apps originate from Broadcastify. So basically, this is just somebody just like you or me that's sharing their scanner, and maybe they're just interested in these particular channels and they create a stream for it. Maybe it doesn't have the other channels that you're interested in. So the best way to monitor what's going on in your area, if you're in that area, is to have a scanner. You're able to control the programming and scan anything that you want that's in the clear. What type of connection does the 160DN have? It's a BNC connection. So it's a twist and lock connection at the top of the radio. So pretty much the 160 looks and feels like the 125 AT. It's basically the same type of shell, maybe slightly different button setup. And of course, it's got the ability to do NXDN and DMR conventional. And rather than having 500 channels, it has 1,000. So slight differences. Out of myself, I'm a big fan of the 260DN because it's a base mobile unit that's got all the bells and whistles of a 125. Plus, it's able to do NXDN and DMR. This is the radio right here. In the back here, you get a BNC connection. You've got your two jacks. One's a record jack, one's an external jack, and so forth. But yeah, this is the 260DN. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a couple of slides. We'll go back to some of your questions, and we'll wrap this up for this evening. So stick around. We'll answer a few more questions, but I want to just do a couple more reminders before we wrap up the show this evening. So this was the topic of discussion. We talked about favorites lists and zip code scanning using those Uniden database scanners. So we want to make sure that we remind you that the Scanner Guys are brought to you by viewers like you. So you guys supporting the channel by watching the shows and also shopping our merch store. We've got all types of great stuff on our merch store. Check it out, thescannerguyshow.com. You can buy hats and sweatshirts and stickers and all types of cool stuff. You purchasing stuff through our store helps us out. Also, on every one of our videos, you can click on the Scanner Master affiliate link and purchase your scanner goods through that affiliate link. We do get a little bit of a cut on that as well, so we appreciate that. So definitely do that as well. So if any time that you're looking to purchase something, use that Scanner Master affiliate link in any one of our videos. Navigate through the store, add your things to the cart, and then do checkout. And then we get a little bit of a percentage of the sale. So the next excuse me. Don't quite have a cough button. But the next show that we have is Train Aficionado Live, which is Wednesday, February the 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check out the Train Aficionado YouTube channel at Train Aficionado. Check out the website as well for blog entries and rail fanning guides, and of course we've got a store of merch on that website as well, so definitely check that out. Our next broadcast, believe it or not, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do for a topic, is Valentine's Day for the Scanner Guys. So I don't know what we're going to do for a show topic on Wednesday, February the 14th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time or 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm sure love will be in the air for maybe a particular radio or two we could highlight or something of that nature. But definitely, be our date on Wednesday, February the 14th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live right here on the Scanner Guys YouTube channel. Don't miss a single show. Make sure you subscribe now. You're watching it. And as always, follow, like, and subscribe to our social media. It's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. And shop our store at our website. Contact us. And, of course, sign up for our newsletter. So good night, Les. Thank you so much for joining the show this evening. We'll catch you again on the next Train Aficionado show. So, yes, on the Scanner Master website, there is the... if you click on the affiliate link down in the description of this video, it'll bring you to the homepage of Scanner Master. There is a page built for both the 160 and 260. I did not build it, so I'm not too sure how accurate it is, but they do have a page up for those radios. I believe there needs to be a lot more information put on there the last time I looked, and but yeah, definitely check that out as well. Let's see here. Let me just take a look at any of the questions. Chris Schultz ordered his Smiley antenna from Smiley Antenna for the Railroad Band, which we've talked about many times on both the Scanner Guys show and the Train Aficionado show. So congrats on that. Hopefully you're having some fun monitoring the railroads. Let's Go Rail Fanning just got his he's got his Scanner Guys shirt on. Perfectly fitting for tonight, since this is the Scanner Guys show. And it looks like there is some issues with some programming there. I think there was somebody that may have answered that. So let me just see what else there is. But yeah, let me just see if there's any other questions. FCC database show. Yeah, I mean, I certainly can see if I can put together something for the 14th for the FCC database. Oh, it's time for our annual NASCAR show. Dale, do you want to come on and talk about it since you're the ultimate NASCAR fan? Let me know. You know how to get a hold of me if you want to join us for a NASCAR show. I mean, we'll be happy to do that. Kind of talk about do's and don'ts with your scanner and how to get your scanner set up for race day. But yeah, definitely, Dale. If you want to be able to come on, I'll be happy to. I mean, you've been to probably a lot more NASCAR races than I have, and I haven't been to one in several years. So let's see. Is there anything else? I'm just trying to look at. Thank you, everyone that's checked in tonight from all over the globe. We appreciate you watching the broadcast each and every evening here on Wednesday nights, whether it's the Train Aficionado show or the Scanner Guys show. But a deep dive. We did do shows on both Train Aficionado show and the Scanner Guys show on the 160 and 260. I probably can, do something a little bit more where we go into a little bit more into them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of naysayers when it comes to the 160 and 260 because it doesn't do everything that everybody wants to do. Reason being is the radio's not made for everyone. The 160 and 260 is the transportation hobbyist scanner, essentially. North Carolina in the house. Welcome. Yeah, make sure you update your firmware for the SDSs. Highly recommended, to update that. Joe, I sent you an email. I'm not too sure if you got it. I need to add the waterfall feature onto my radios. I need keys for those, so if you can make that happen, that would be awesome. And then we could do a show on the waterfall feature as well. But yeah, a lot of race fans out there. Born and raised, John B. Mentions that he's born and raised in Daytona Beach, worked many, many races. That must have been cool. I haven't been to a race at Daytona, but that's got to be a really cool experience. Shows, I did have a bit of an absence. 2 shows weren't on this month. Basically, on the 10th, I was traveling. And then on the 17th, I was battling this annoying cold, which is finally starting to go away. So, my travels kind of opened up some cooties that I got while I was traveling. And then I was dealing with, this whatever I've got flu-like thing. Which is finally, thankfully, going away. But yeah, excited to be able to do some new shows coming in February. Hopefully we'll get Dale on as a guest. As always, he's always a great guest. And, of course, we're always looking for guests for both Train Aficionado and the Scanner Guys show. But I don't see any new questions. I think, most of the questions were answered by other people. And we'll go from there. Well, I thank you so much for everyone joining us this evening. Keep warm, keep safe. We'll catch you again on the 7th, which will be the first show of the month. I will be more than likely off the following Wednesday because it's the 5th Wednesday of the month. Unless I decide to do a show, I will let you guys know. But I more than likely will take the Wednesday off because it's the 5th Wednesday of the month. And then we will commence with the Train Aficionado show on the 7th. And then, of course, the Scanner Guys show on the 14th. So if you don't have a date on Valentine's Day, you can certainly join me here in the studio. We'll make your Valentine's Day bright and fun with some sort of topic, scanner-related one. So thank you so much for joining me this evening, live from our Cincinnati studios. Have a great night. I will talk to you again soon. Be safe.